corpus for St. Catherine of Siena Church, which is going to be carved out of this block of wood. What you see right now is the full-scale pattern, which is life-size. I'm roughly 6'2" in height, and you can see that this is a life-size carving. This drawing that's on here is the pattern, which comes from the full-scale sketch, which is known as the cartoon. That has been transferred onto the wood, and the thing is that the figure is already inside of the block of wood, and this is how you have to think about it as you're doing the carving, which means if you carve in too far, you would be damaging the corpus that is already contained within the mass. So as you're doing it, therefore, you're very sensitive as to how much material is being removed and where, and that it is correct as far as what you're trying to achieve. Now, we use a variety of tools for this. The beginning phases, we use very aggressive tools, which is, in this case, a chainsaw, and then there are other types of gouges and so on, grinders that are quite aggressive, that remove as much material as possible quickly, because this is a very time-consuming process overall, and of course, the finer you go into the details, the finer the tools become, and the longer it actually takes as well. So initially, the tools are very aggressive with the idea that you remove as much material as fast as possible. So today we're going to start with the chainsaw. And to do that, I'm going to turn the piece on its side, and then we'll start in with the actual chainsaw itself. So this is the beginning. Here we see again the cartoon and how it's been transferred to the block of wood, and the beginning of the shape is starting to emerge. So just the way this was shaped, this will get shaped in here. Now that the bulk has been removed, it'll be made smooth. This side will follow the same routine. And once it's smooth, I can then draw the figure from the side profiles. And once it's on from the side profiles, I'll be doing the same thing again, but in the opposite direction. So now, as you can see, we've finished roughing out the two sides. This is the cartoon pattern that is on top, and when I take this off, the entire shape has been roughed out all the way through on both sides. This section here gets a slight additional lamination, that's why it's still flat. The motif has been transcribed in this dimension, drawn out in profile on both sides. And now I am ready to take off the next sections, which will be the depth indicators as to where the figure is being held within this mass. In a sense, I'm freeing the bondage that it's contained with. And this is a section that I'm going to cut out first, and I'll be starting to carve the chest area first three-dimensionally and then work my way down. So as you can see here, the chest area that has been carved is emerging from the solid square block of wood. And as that develops, because the form is technically already inside of the block of wood, as you start to extend that development, you can see on the left side the emergence of the leg as it comes logically from what is already there in the upper section in the chest area. So now this next stage that you see here, as the anatomy has been brought out more, that was already in the block, the original block. You can still see the size of the original block because nothing has been done on the head portion. And if you take that straight down, you can see that the knees are pretty much at the outside edge of what the original block was. And as it goes down, obviously the area in around the feet have been reduced. At this stage, we have the basic anatomy in place. It will still lose a lot of volume and area as things get refined, such as the feet. More details in by the cloth area, the chest itself. Once the arms go on, it will be reduced so that he looks like he is actually hanging on the cross, and the body is starting to look limp because it is a dead Christ. Now you can see the details of the face and the head being worked out in reference to the rest of the body, in the gesture and in the emotion of what is being conveyed here. This next stage is to convey the same kind of gesture and feeling through the way the arms are configured, attached to the body. You'll see two blocks of wood here that have to be referenced to a flat plane, but then the body is limp, hanging away from that flat plane, in other words, hanging away from the cross. And you can see how the arms will be attached to the body, and of course the grain of the blocks of wood for the arms has to run in the length, and so there is a change of grain direction for strength of the overall configuration. At this stage, you can see that we've relocated corpus so that we can work on the details involved with the arms and how they are suspended logically from the anatomy of the body as it goes through to the suspension points of the arms. And as you have seen, these are added as the piece progresses. In the same way, we will add a crown of thorns carved out of wood, so that it looks totally real. And what's left to be done on this are surface details, and of course the hands would still have to be carved as well as the feet, so they emerge out of the block of wood as they gradually emerge with the same gestures and feelings of the overall body and emotions being conveyed. So as you can see, we've stood him up the way he would be hanging on the cross. At this point, of course, you analyze it further to make sure that everything is correct as far as the overall gesture and the emotions that are being depicted. And of course, at this point, you also can see that a lot more details will be added that will heighten the emotion, like details with the beard, etc., and the different textures involved, and so on, as well as what I've indicated before with the remaining parts that have to be carved out of the block. So at this stage we have hung up the carving to see exactly how everything fits as far as overall proportions and details. You'll notice that the cross has been marked off at the top where it will be cut shorter, and things have to be worked out in proportion to the main part of the body that we have carved. As well, there'll be little details still enhanced, which we now see clearly once it's up. Muscular aspects and things like that will be enhanced a little bit more at this stage. So the corpus and the cross is only half of the scenario here. The setting on which it is placed is this reredos. And the reredos is the other half of the design. So it's not just a corpus sitting on a wall. This reredos, which is freestanding, has a window in behind it, roughly 4 or 5 feet away, and it will cascade light in around the reredos, as well as within the slits that will be created in the reredos, allowing the natural light to come through like a radiance. And the effect is basically as this card that has the cutout illustrates. So the amount of slits, length and width of these particular slits, and the placement, as well as the textured effect around it, is as important as the carving is, because it has to balance with the carving and not overpower it. It is an accent to enhance the symbol and the significance of the Christ figure on the cross. So what you see here is the pattern that involves the lower quadrant from the cross piece down. So the green indicates the cross, and the textured parts will come in from a texturing from the outside and get finer as they go in toward the cross piece itself. The red lines indicate the slits. So this is the lower quadrant. Here is the cross piece and the stem of the cross going down. This is exactly the pattern that will be created on that reredos as part of the overall design. Okay, so here we have the finished corpus with all of the details that will stand out against the reredos with all of its details. And the next time you will see this is when it is installed in the church on that reredos, when the church is finished.